name of the philosopher and about his life. I briefed you in the very beginning of the lecture. And in this lecture, we'll talk about this Plato theory of communism. Okay, so this Plato theory of communism is supplementary to his theory of education in molding the character of the guardian. So this the main task of this, what as I briefed you earlier as well, whatever is the ill effects and whatever the ill effects are remaining after the education. So this theory of communism, Plato's theory of communism, will eradicate it. So that's why his theory of communism is supplementary to his theory of education, and this will help to mold the character of the guardian. And who are the guardian? Can you tell me? Yes, Pius, who are the guardians?
Sir, according to Plato,
Yes, yes.
sir, guardians are the rulers
Okay, and
and philosophers.
the guardians are the combination of two classes.
And the
Sir,
shoulders ones also.
Yes,
soldier,
yes. Already.
philosopher and soldier.
Yes. So it is a part and parcel of the new social order in which the governing class has to live by renouncing property and family. So, in this concept of the Plato's concept of the theory of communism, what will happen? So, this will create the new social order in which the governing class, among the governing class, there will be the new social order. How? They will not keep the private property and family. They are not allowed to keep any kind of the private property and the family. Okay. So here, Plato pleads for communism in the name of justice. Okay, so why he is pleading for this concept of communism? Okay, so you do not confuse with his communism to the Marx communism. Okay, so this Plato pleads for communism in the name of justice. Okay, so how? Because if they will not keep the property or the family, then this nepotism and favoritism will go away, and the ruler will not greed for collecting of the enough number of the property for his own luxury. So by this way, the ruler can focus on the welfare of the people and the city states. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it is a way of life. This is a way of life. The object of which is to attain what this spiritual betterment of the ruling class, and by this way, what will happen? The ruling class will attain the spiritual betterment. They will be spiritually more in a they will be in a more better position spiritually, and it will help to remold the human character so as to destroy a false conception of the self as an isolated unit concerned with its own satisfaction, and to substitute it with a conception of the self uh, as a part of public order. So, what will happen? that ruler will remold his character, and he will not be in the false conception of self and isolated unit. So he will be more concerned with his own satisfaction, and substitute to it is what the conception of self as a part of public order. He will consider him as part of public order. So the next thing, the communism requires surrender of property and family. So communism के लिए क्या जरूरी है? वो सरेंडर करेंगे अपनी प्रॉपर्टी को और अपनी फैमिली को. So it means that the ruler, this ruler class, the philosopher king, will not keep any kind of the property, personal property, and the family. So it is an ascetic way of life, uh, but it meant for the guardians only, and it is not for all the citizens of that Greek city-state. It is only for the guardians class only, and who comprises this class? That is the philosopher, ruler class, and the soldiers, especially the elite soldiers, that are at the higher positions, not the auxiliaries. Uh, the producing class is categorically exempted from uh, this scheme of communism, and they are to enjoy the fruits of private property and family life. So the third class, that is the producing class, will be exempted from this scheme of communism, and they are entitled to keep and enjoy the fruits of the property. They will keep the property, and they will enjoy the benefits of it, and they are also entitled to keep and maintain the family life and enjoy it. So, according to Plato, property and family are two fundamental roots of human selfishness. So, Plato कहते हैं कि ये जो right property है और family, ये दो मेन फंडामेंटल कॉज है जिसकी वजह से ह्यूमन सेल्फिश हो जाता है. स्टार्ट थिंकिंग अबाउट himself and herself, and engaged in the malpractices and the this corruption and favoritism, nepotism, and all those things. This the root cause of the selfishness is the property and family. So if these are eliminated from the psyche of the ruler, then he will have no self-interest to serve his family and for his own interest. So in that case, the ruler will be completely committed to the cause of general welfare. So in this way, what will happen? Their whole focus will lie on the welfare of the city state and the people of that state. Is it clear? Is it clear? Any question till now?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Any others? किसी को कुछ पूछना है? So we'll talk about this community of property. Plato, in the same theme, will I'm going to talk about this community of property. So Plato argues for a community of property on ethical and political grounds. So now we'll talk about the ethical and the political grounds for this community of property. Thus, ethical argument is his conception of justice that requires each man to do one special job for which he is fit by the nature. So you can recall the previous lecture on the Plato's idea of justice and the classification of the three class. So and the three soul. What's happened here? That no one will meddle some in the task of another person or interfere in that, whomsoever having the expertise uh, in whatever the task or the job, he or she will perform only those tasks. So this way, what will happen? The specialization will come, and then the excellence performance will be there. And by this process, the state will achieve the fuller development, and individual will be able to utilize his uttermost or the highest skills. Uh, so, is it clear? The ethical argument in his conception of justice is what? That requires each man to do one special job for which he is fit by nature. Okay. Uh, the next thing, the rulers and the soldiers represent two elements, that is the wisdom and spirit respectively. As I briefed you earlier as well, in the three classes on the hierarchy is the ruler, the philosopher one, and what is dominant in them is the wisdom, and the second class is of soldiers, and in among them, the spirit is the dominant factor, and if they are to discharge their specific functions efficiently. So abandon the element of appetite. So whatever is the dominant factor in the producer's class, that is the element of appetite, will be abandoned by them. If I will talk about the same thing in other words, so they must abandon the economic side of their life, which is the outward expression of this appetitive element. Uh, Thus, communist way of life is therefore necessary to the ruling class. For what? For without it, the philosophic nature will act selfishly. Uh, so now we'll talk about the political argument. So, uh, as I told you, the beginning on this theme, the community of property, which Plato argued for this community of property on two grounds, that is ethical and political grounds. So just I briefed you about the ethical grounds for the community of property. And now we'll talk about the political arguments or the ground for the community of property. So any question on this ethical ground? Uh, the political argument rests on the premise that if corruption is to be eliminated from political life, there should be a complete separation of economic power and political power. This question comes कि अगर corruption को पूरी तरीके से political life से हटाया जा रहा है, तो there should be a complete separation. इकोनॉमिक पावर एंड पॉलिटिकल पावर के बीच में पूरी तरीके से सेपरेशन होना चाहिए, जैसा कि दिस एथिकल आर्गुमेंट में कहा गया कि they will not consider and think about the economic way of life that Gachin class. So whenever a union between the two occurs, the ruler turns his political power to his economic advantage. जब कभी भी दोनों के बीच में union होगा, I mean the political and the economic power, then what will happen? The ruler will turn his political power to his economic advantage. So here having the objection of Plato's a scheme of community of property word is to separate economic power from political power. So his scheme, what is the main object of his scheme of this community of property is to separate this economic power from political power. So, what will happen by separating this economic power from the political power? So, Plato is saying that by this, the ruler can exercise his power according to the dictates of his own wisdom, unperturbed by desire. So, when this economic power uh, uh, will be separated from political power, what will happen? The ruler can exercise his power. How? According to the dictates of his wisdom, uh, unperturbed by desire. So, is it clear? And now we'll talk about the community of family. So, is it clear? The two ethical grounds, that is the ethical and the political grounds. Is it clear? Any question? Okay. We'll talk about this community of family. So, this Plato scheme not only embraces this community of property, but also contemplates this communism of wives. सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं है कि it's talking about just to the communism of property, not to keep the property, but also not to keep the wives. Uh, he deprives the rulers of property since it is a care, uh, is a distraction. So why he's saying that not to keep the property? He deprives Plato deprives the rulers of property. Why? Because its care is a distraction, and Plato deprives them of family. I mean the rulers of family for family, since it provides temptations to self-interest, because this way the self-interest will come and he will start thinking about his own family and the coming generations. So the family postulates property for its maintenance, and the ruler will start accumulating the property for its maintenance, and it is a distraction from the genuine work of a man's life. And this way, what will happen? So he is considering Plato is a distraction from what? The genuine work of a man's life. Uh, it is a temptation to throw oneself into seeking, self-seeking. It is a temptation to throw oneself into self-seeking, which seems almost novel uh, when it is distinguished under the grab of fathers and anxiety for the future of his children. So for the ruler, the soldier and the soldier, there is but one home, and that is the estate. For these two classes, the ruler and the soldier, there is just one home, that is the estate. And if the guardians have separate and the individual homes apart from the estate, there will be disunion among themselves. And then what will happen? a separation from their subjects, uh, whom they should protect and govern. So if they will keep and this family and property, then what will happen? They will be disunion among themselves. They will not be united among themselves. And then what will happen? They will be separated from their citizens, whom they are protecting and governing. So the object of abolishing family was to restore to the women a state of freedom and equality with men. So the major point is that why Plato kept this concept of the abolition of the family or the communism of wives and wives. So the reason behind that, so even the women can be the part in a state of even the women can achieve the state of freedom and equality with men. So only then the women can be the ruler, because even she has to go with this the process of the education and the screening, which will last till 50 years, and the education till the age of 35 years. So in this way, if Plato thinks that if this should not be there, then women should not be able to enjoy the state of freedom and unable to maintain the equality with men. So is it clear, or any question? Tell me fast.
Clear, sir.
Pallavi
No,
is
sir.
there. Pallavi,
यस सर।
तुम्हारा लास्ट डाउट क्लियर हुआ?
सर मैंने लेट से ज्वाइन किया है तो सर मुझे
Okay. So the last thing which I'm going to talk about on the lecture of this Plato is the analogy of the hunting dog. Okay, analogy of this hunting dog. Plato is a believer in the equality between the sexes. So he is believing in the equality among the male and the female. Okay, so he is a believer in the equality between the sexes. He uses the analogy of the hunting dog to reinforce his theory of sex equality. Okay, the female hunting dog is as fierce and efficient as the male hunting dog in tearing her prey to pieces. So, by portraying this example, he is trying to prove the equality between the sexes. And for that, he is giving the example or this the theory of this, the analogy of this hunting dog. And he is depicting that the female hunting dog is as fierce and efficient as the male hunting dog uh, in tearing a male hunting dog in tearing her prey or his prey to male hunting dog in tearing his prey to pieces. This domestic drudgery cramps the intellectual energies of women. So Plato is saying that when the women will be engaged in the household tasks and the all those activities and the bearing and the rearing of the child, then what will happen? His intellectual energies will go away, will be wasted. The emancipation of women will enable their services to be used for the community at large. So the Plato talked about the emancipation of women by his the concept of the communism of wives. So what will happen by this? He is trying to keep the women free from the household task and the family affairs. So this way, what will happen? This will enable the women to provide the services, and his excellence can be used for the community at the large. So finally, we'll say that the emancipation of women will enable these services to be used for the community at large. Uh, as there is no difference in the nature of men and women. The participation of women in political life is necessary and good. So, as Plato proved, there is no difference in the nature of men and women by this analogy of this hunting dog, and so the no difference in the nature of men and the women. So the participation of women in political life is necessary and good. So that's why he is suggesting the participation of women should must be in political life, and it is necessary and good for her and as well as the society. So to destroy the family, Plato proposes the community of wives. If the family is abolished, the state will gain in unity and women will gain liberty. So he is saying if the family is abolished, then what will happen? The family is abolished not among all the citizens, you must keep in the mind. He is talking about, and as I briefed you, he's talking about the communism of wives only for the two classes. That is that is the philosophers and the soldiers class, which comprises by clubbing together these two classes, which makes this guardian class. So only they will not keep the family. They will be deprived. They will and sorry, this concept of the communism of wives and property will be applicable to them. So he is saying if the family is abolished, then the state will gain in unity and the women will get liberty. So they can be educated till the age of 35, which is necessary, and then the 15 years for in the in task, and then can become the ruler. So for the private household uh, is hostile to the unity of the state. So he is considering the private household is the hostile to the unity of a state that will break the unity of the state, and it will also hinder and be the barrier for the full participation of women in political life. And if there will be the private life for the guardian class, then it will become the barrier for the fuller participation or the hindrances for the fuller participation of women in political life. To destroy the family, Plato proposes the novel scheme of the community of wives. So, to just wipe out the family, the Plato proposes the scheme of the community of wives. Under the novel social system, wives and children of the guardians are to be common. So, so under this his new social system, the wives and the children of the guardians are to be common. So, what the Plato suggested, the breeding of the guardians should be controlled by the state. Plato advocates eugenic method of breeding and uses the analogy of horse breeding to reinforce his argument. And so for that, he has used the analogy of this horse breeding to reinforce his argument. And Plato advocates what? The state control nuptials, and so as a matter of fact, Plato's communism shocked his contemporaries as it may shock the modern reader, because private property and family are still sacrosanct. So if anybody will say to the rulers, okay, listen, you should not keep the private property and family. let's see how what will happen. So this is really sacrosanct. So even you will find it was very much shocking for his contemporaries, Plato, at that point of the time, and even who are reading in this modern time as well. So this is probably why Plato is considered as an extreme idealist. So this is the reason behind that. I may, probably the Plato considered as an extreme idealist, and his entire philosophy is dubbed as utopian, and this is the reason why his entire philosophy can be criticized as utopian, and having the critiques would say it's utopian. And his most admired pupil, Aristotle, who became the first to criticize it on empirical grounds. और कोई भी नहीं बल्कि उनका खुद का जो most favored student है Aristotle was the first one to criticize the whole theory of Plato on the ground of uh, on the empirical ground, his concept of this communism of wives and property. So the lecture on this Plato is over, and if you have any question,